All righty, good Friday afternoon to you. Welcome in the Chico Bormann Show here on the Big Play Sports Network. Glad to have you along as we do each and every day, Monday through Friday, 11 until 1. You can stream us live on Twitter. You can find me there at Chico Show CLE. Also, you can find us on YouTube. Go over there, type in the Chico Bormann Show, hit subscribe if you're not already, and you will be ready to roll. All right, well, the NFL season is off and rolling, off and running, and all of that good stuff. The Hall of Fame game last night, the Browns win for what it's worth. I don't know. I always say, it doesn't mean anything, but remember when the Ravens, I don't even know, maybe their streak is still intact. But I think, the Ravens had a streak where they hadn't lost a preseason game in 3 or 4 years. I'm like, well, it can't hurt. It can't hurt as far as the culture, right? I mean, it can't hurt. But yeah, so the Browns do come out on top. Takeaways. Bottom line is I'm going to tell myself this. We're not going to overreact to anything. And, it is one preseason game. There's one thing that I am concerned about, and I think most people are, and I think it's a legit concern. I don't care if it's preseason game number 1 or not, but we'll get to that here in a moment. Want to get you all set up, ready to go. Telephone lines are open, 216-626-7901, 216-626-7901. Obviously, in addition to the game itself, the reason for the game and the reason for the weekend, we had Joe Thomas on the show yesterday. He just, I hate saying this, but I tweeted this, and because it's become so cliche year after year here in Cleveland with the he gets us from the revolving door of coaches. God knows there's been so many, and just wanting to, but boom, Joe Thomas truly does, he wants Cleveland to be as much a part of this as him and his family. And you might say, oh, well, of course, everybody. Yeah, a lot of guys will say that, but do they truly mean it? You could see it last night. Now, like I said, I can't wait until tomorrow to see his induction speech and see the reaction, because it's clear that, yeah, he gets us, he loves us, and we love him back.
Yeah, and compile all that with the fact that Joe is just a phenomenal storyteller.
He is. You're right about that.
He's very heartfelt in what he has to say. And I anticipate that it will be borderline tear-jerking.
Yeah. I think I heard somebody say that yesterday. I was listening to some of the pregame, and yeah, I heard somebody have that exact sentiment that, you know what, this could, because Joe even said that, without giving anything away, and we kind of asked him about it too, as far as the speech itself, he has been pretty forthcoming that, hey, Browns fans are going to feel the love. And he said, we heard him yesterday, and he's been pretty steadfast in this, that he wants Browns fans to feel like they're up on stage with him. He's actually said that, and that alone, it's like must-see TV, must-watch TV, just because that when he says it, he means it, and he's going to follow through with it. But, all right, 216-626-7901. Coming up at the top of the hour at noon, we're going to hook up with our good buddy Nick Shook with NFL.com. Always enjoy talking to Nick, and of course they do. One thing I love about NFL.com, Nick's a part of this during the season. He was tasked with it last night. They do what we learned, and they go through during the regular season, each and every game. And Nick had his points from last night's game, which we'll get to with him. But I think, first and foremost, hey, it's just good to see the guys out there. Last year, you can't really put anything behind you until you actually begin. And I know they haven't really begun because it's preseason game number 1. But I think when you consider everything that happened last year, and I'm not even just referring to record and just everything, the drama, the Deshaun Watson situation and the bickering, and it was just good. It was like, okay, I can finally, I hope, flush this, get rid of it. and say 2023, let's have at it. And that's kind of the way I felt watching that game. And I mean, there's some points that we're going to get to, and there was some things that we're going to talk about. But I think all in all, for me, it was about seeing Joe Thomas and his appreciation and the appreciation for him. And it was about, for me personally, feeling like, okay, I really want to turn the page now. Like, they played a game. It's meaningless. None of those guys that were, and are key components to this team were playing last night. But regardless, the orange helmets were out there, and that allows me to say, let's put it behind us. Let's put it behind us last year. All right, 216-626-7901. Joe Thomas, obviously, as we said, in the Hall of Fame. I was talking to a fella who he's got a pretty good resume himself. And you're familiar with him, Browns fans, Josh Cribbs. I was talking to him before the show today, and he was talking about the fans that came out, and now like Josh is next, right? Like we hope that it's been so long and you finally get somebody in, but it shouldn't just be Joe. Josh is, I think, very much deserving. Will it happen? I don't know. I mean, the game has changed. Here's the thing. The game has changed, and in many ways, it's good. And I don't want to be that, Chico's the old man yelling at the clouds again and complaining about. But it has changed so much that a guy like Josh Cribbs, who was a great return man, obviously, I don't think people realize. I think certain fans here realize, but even there might be some out there that don't really understand. Like, he was incredible on kick coverage. And when you talk about a great special teams player, these are the little things that become big things for a team. And Josh was at the center of all of that. Having said that, special teams, boom. I'm not going to overreact. Remember I said that. Let me say it. I'm going to say it like, I'm not going to overreact. I'm not going to overreact. I'm not going to overreact. I'm concerned about Cade York. I just, there's, and I know it's one preseason game, and I know it's one of those where you say, what. I just feel like with Cade, it's almost it's a mental thing. I mean, the game is mental, and it's I mean, everybody's playing that mental game. But for a kicker, like, you want to see the ball go through the uprights. I'm sure that he's had good practices. He had great practices last year. He was like, that's just it. Like, he made that big kick to start the season. And we all thought, I mean, we were ready to build a statue of Cade York, right? Like, hey, you know what? That makes it okay. You drafted that kicker. That makes it okay. And it makes it great because look at him. The little things become big things. You get in field goal range. Now you actually have somebody you believe in. And then the rest of the season played out, and you're like, wow, that's not the case anymore. Again, I don't want to put too much emphasis. I'm not going to put too much emphasis on one game, but I think it's okay. And I really want to hear from you folks on this. 216-626-7901 on Twitter at Chico Show CLE and on YouTube with your comments. I don't think I'm making too much of this. I think with Cade York, it's that important. And I've said this over the last couple of years, and it's become a theme. And the only reason I keep repeating it is because, well, I think it's important. Little things for teams that have the talent, for teams that have a lot of talent like the Browns do this year, little things become big things, and little things, if they do happen, that's what gets you into the postseason. If they don't happen, those are the things that keep you out, and then it can snowball. So I don't want to blow this out of proportion, but I'd be lying if I said I'm not concerned with Cade York. Now, upstairs, maybe he's fine, but I don't know what he's thinking upstairs, and that's when I get nervous. I think that's when we all get nervous. Kickers they're important, it's a fickle. It's kind of like a bullpen in baseball. It's kind of like a golfer. Like I think of guys like Bernhard Longer, who he was great for, and then all of a sudden, like he went through that stretch. They call it in baseball Steve Blast disease, like Chuck Knobloch. Remember when he couldn't make the throw from second base to first base, and then it gets in your head? I'm not saying Cade York is there. I'm concerned though that it's that mental of a thing that I hope it doesn't get to that. Go ahead, Bohm. You were ready to say something.
Oh, I mean, I was. I guess the yips. He's got a case of the yips. But no, I was going to bring up Knobloch earlier. I was going to make the comparison, but I didn't. It didn't feel like the right opportunity.
That's okay. By the way, we talk about. Remember, we had that conversation a while back about SportsCenter nicknames. One of the best of all time. Berman's had a ton of them. Chuck New Kids on Knobloch is to this day. It might be numero uno. I mean, just in terms of like creativity and like when he first dropped Chuck New Kids on Knobloch, I was like, wow, that's pretty damn good. So anyway, you brought that up and I had to.
Clever as all get out.
Yes, very, very clever. So I don't know. Am I overblowing it? And you can, if I am, say I am. They've got some more preseason games. The season hasn't started. They've got a new special teams coach, but I feel like with him and the team, but I feel like with him after last year, it would have been really nice to see him and he almost, it looked like he almost missed an extra point too. You can't have those things happen if you're a team that is thinking about the postseason and thinking that, and they do have enough talent hopefully to get to that postseason. You can't have those things occur. And, little things become big things. So I hope that it's no big deal. Bubba Ventrone, their new special teams coach, is, not a big thing. We saw something mechanically. He's fine. But that's my only real takeaway from this game.
Chico, I had a couple more takeaways outside of that. But,
well, I do have I'm sorry. The it matters takeaway, I think. Okay. I have, thoughts on the game that I don't think are a huge deal, but go ahead. I'm sorry. Sure.
Less or more menial matters, so to speak.
So to speak. Yes. Thank you, Bo.
Chico, it was interesting too, just having that juxtaposition with Greg Zuerlein. Greg the Leg, he was just on point. In that game last night. He was probably the best part of that Jets team. And to see that, and then you just see how Cade York, even his extra points are barely staying, within the confines of the goalposts. It just doesn't feel right now with Cade York. And it is concerning. He's probably going to have a few game winners on the line. And right now, I don't have a lot of faith that he can hit them.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. I'm glad you came out and said it. And I think I was basically getting to that. Like right now, if it's first week of September and the Bengals are in town, as they will be, we don't know if Joe Burrow is going to be the quarterback, but Bengals are in town and it's coming down to, 2 seconds on the clock, timeout, Cade York down by 2. He's got a field goal to win it. And honestly, I don't think we're being overly dramatic. It's a concern, and I think it's a flip of a coin. Do I feel great about it? No. You're always nervous because even Justin Tucker, you're like, well, yeah. But you're nervous with this guy, and that, here's another aspect of this. Love talking special teams. Josh Cribbs, I think, got me in the mood for special teams. Seeing him before the show, talking to him and his lovely wife, Maria, it's like, yes, now I'm in special teams mode. But, think about this. Play calling. When you know or you have confidence toward the end of a half, the end of a game, when you have confidence that, hey, if I get to the 38-yard line, that's still a long field goal. We're talking 55 yards. If we get to the 38, the 35, certainly if we get to the 25, money. If we can just get there, now all of a sudden the playbook is wide open. And, you can call, but if you know that you don't have, you don't feel confident in that, it shrinks. And to not have that confidence, and I know, okay, it's August. What's the date today, Boom? Today's August the 4th. There's still a month to go. Please tell me that won't linger, because it will be a huge deal. And when we're talking about, we want to have that conversation because everybody's having, what's their record going to be, and what do you think for the Browns season? And, well, you're right. I mean, you hit the nail on the head, Boom, as you usually do, Boom. Yes, you do. They're going to be in a lot of close games. This AFC North, the AFC in general. I mean, the Jets, who knows? The Jets could win the AFC East. I mean, you look at the AFC East, you look at the AFC North, you've got Kansas City, you've got this Los Angeles, the Chargers, not that I'm necessarily buying all in with them, but, it's going to be very difficult. So, again, yeah, I'm beating a dead horse, but I'm going to whip it one more time. Don't call me PETA. I didn't mean it like that. You know what I'm saying. Little things, big things. And special teams seem like little things, especially nowadays. Another conversation I was having with Josh. Nowadays, it seems, no. And I hope it doesn't, and it shouldn't hurt Josh's candidacy to get in the Hall of Fame, because just because the game's changing and special teams and kickoffs and returns and stuff like that aren't a big deal, and coverage, that shouldn't be. But, the kicking game, the special teams game, it's huge. It is huge. I mean, if, you think of last year's Super Bowl. Boom, think about it. Harrison Butker is lined up to kick that field goal. And look, as a Browns fan, and I know it's California dreaming right now, but as a Browns fan, you're thinking, oh my gosh, I want to be, give me that situation. Even if he misses it, give me that situation. But just to give you an idea, an entire season, and I know that's a lot of pressure, but that's why I'm concerned. That's why I'm concerned with Cade York, because it is such a mental thing, and you've got to be as mentally tough as anybody on that field. We say, well, kicker, yeah. I mean, yeah, he's not going to pull on a run from the left tackle or guard spot. He's not going to make the big catch, make the big throw. But you know what? He's got to be as mentally tough as any one of those guys. And if he's not, and he wavers, that could be the difference in a game, your season. Chiefs are not world champions if it doesn't happen. That's how important it becomes.
Yeah, Chico, I don't think we take it into consideration enough, but there is a transition process from college to pros for kickers too, right? I mean, the game overall is just way more fast-paced. You have to move as efficiently and precisely as possible. And we see it all the time with kickers, right? I remember Greg Joseph. He obviously did not work out here in Cleveland. We thought, he had his moments.
Yeah.
But then he goes up to Minnesota, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
And he makes a name for himself as one of the better kickers in the NFL. And sometimes it's a wake up call like that. Sometimes it's just a couple of years to make that adjustment. But it is a transition process for Cade. And look, it's just fresh in my mind because of all the players the Guardians have dealt that have suddenly turned out incredible.
Of course you had to turn it into... No, go ahead.
No, I mean, just that theme of all these great players leaving Cleveland and then having booming careers. And you have to wonder how much of that change of pace is of an impact in that.
Okay, I'm gonna respectfully disagree with you. And this is why it's a fascinating debate. When we say it's fast-paced, it really doesn't... The game doesn't change for kickers. I mean, it's... Of course, it's different because now you're a professional. Now you're getting paid. But it's the same. It's not faster. The guy, it's snap, it's kick. Okay, yeah, you might have somebody more athletic coming around the end you got to worry about. But for the most part, it's the snap, it's the ball's down, and you got to put it through the uprights. And I don't mean to make it simple and easy, but it's not when people say quarterbacks or any other skill position, wow, these guys are just That's not it. So I'm going to disagree with you. Like, it's not a, when you say the transition to the pros, I mean, technically, yeah, there's a lot more riding on it. Your income, your future, your career. But that's one position. Again, this is why it's so unique. That's one position where, like, no, it's not faster. Can you boom a kick? You boom a kick. Cade York, that's why, he had all those kicks at LSU, and everybody believed in him. That's why he was drafted high. And then after the first game, you're like, yep, that's exactly what he did at LSU. Until he doesn't, and now all of a sudden you're going, well, what happened? Up here. I mean, really, and I'm not saying some of this isn't mechanical, but it's not a matter of, well, the guys up front are just bigger and faster. No.
This reminds me of an experience I had once when I played in a golf outing, right? And I happened to be paired up.
Where this one goes.
I happened to be paired up with a former NFL kicker from before my time. He kicked for the Eagles. His last name was McFadden. I don't remember his first name, but he kicked for the Eagles. And I asked him what he liked what was it like to play in the NFL, and he said something along the lines of he didn't like it because of the pressure.
Very original question, by the way.
No, I mean.
So, what was it like?
This was years ago. This was pre-Bowman Media era.
Yeah, I'm just giving you hell. I'm sorry. I'll shut up.
No, but I thought his answer was fascinating because he basically talked very condescendingly about his time in the NFL and how nerve-wracking it was week to week, and just living with that kind of anxiety every day. It was bothersome to me.
Well, guess that. So this is my point. It's much more up here. I mean, of course, the guy can boom kicks. I mean, if you're on the practice field at Berea after practice, the guys are into it, and he's just, wow, that was a 56-yarder. Holy, we know he's got the leg, and we know he can be accurate. But again, it is so, it goes. And that's why I say it's like the golf swing. It's like the yips, as you said. It's like, man, Chuck Knobloch used to be able to make that throw. How can a second baseman, how can a major league second baseman not make the throw to first? Here, and nowhere is it more like that, in my opinion, than that guy. And again, it's easy to say, and I get it when guys are like, all right, remember Todd Haley? Way to go, you bleeping kicker. But you need him. And if he's not right in the head and he lacks any sort of confidence, that kind of scares me. Like to hear what that guy said. Now there's a reason he was playing golf with you, and I'm not being mean, but
he played in the league before I was alive.
I got to look this guy up. McFadden, you said?
Yeah, kicker for the Eagles.
I guess I pride myself somewhat on. I mean, there's a Darren McFadden.
I think that might be it.
He's not a kicker.
Oh,
He's
no,
a
the running back? Oh,
yeah.
Okay, no, it's not Darren. I was
going to say I was going to ask you, are they related?
No relation.
Okay, I don't know who it is. He obviously didn't have a very long career, and if you're telling me that he said I didn't like it because it was nerve-wracking, I know why he didn't have a long career. It's tough. I'm not sitting here up here of all places going, well, you couldn't hack it, but
McFadden.
Paul McFadden?
Eagles, Falcons, and Giants from 84 through 89. Kicker at YSU from 80 through 83.
He's a Youngstown Stater?
Yep.
Hope he's not listening. You probably can't find it. All right. But to my point, and we're going to talk to Nick Shook at the top of the hour from NFL.com, get his thoughts on all of this. I mean, yes, there were plenty of other things to talk about. I thought DTR looked good. I thought Kellen Mond did not. I'll be honest with you, Kellen Mond looked really bad. I don't, again, does it mean that much first preseason game? No, but Kellen Mond looked bad. And DTR, again, limited, but I think you see what they like in him, and at least with DTR, it feels like, well, not feels like, it is. he gives a defense so much more to think about because of the athletic ability, and he can make some throws. He had a lot of success in college and a big-time college at UCLA. Now, does that always translate to the NFL? No, because the guys are bigger, faster, stronger. That area definitely matters.
Chico, so I had to work the game last night, right? So I was listening to Jim and Nathan talk about it a little bit, and they mentioned specifically how when DTR was on the field, there was a different energy out there on the field as well.
Totally agree.
You could feel it with the players, and I think that the way that he was leading the offense was, obviously against last team defense, but still, I think you have to feel extremely encouraged by that. And how about Tillman as well? Cedric Tillman made a few huge plays. Now he had the penalty. Hopefully that's something that you can learn from. Pretty minor thing considering everything he did in that game, but
he's going to be special. I hate doing that this early, but he
looks good.
We talked about this on draft night or technically the day after, or the 2 days after. That if you go back to that year before, because, again, the reason he slipped where he did is because he was hurt. He didn't – the year before, and he wasn't just – obviously he wasn't just doing this, at Louisiana Tech. Sorry if there's any Louisiana Tech fans out there. He's doing this against the likes of Alabama and Georgia and had his best games against those teams. And we're talking the Georgia Bulldogs, like that was – Kirby Smart, that was that incredible defense, and Cedric Tillman was basically having I think he had 200 yards against him. Cedric Tillman, I think, knock on wood, health, and all those, all the other stuff. From a talent standpoint, I think we're going to be talking about this guy as quite defined in a couple of years.
Also, I think you saw some guys flash defensively as well. What's Charles Thomas? Is that his name?
Yes.
He had a couple of huge tackles late in that game. Bubba Bolden with the INT. Even Ronnie Hickman getting in there making a tackle.
Well,
McAllister almost had an INT too.
I knew that you were working last night. Otherwise, because I was going to text you when Hickman made his first stop. And then I was like, "Oh, Bohm's working," because I knew. Like, okay, would you any thoughts on DeJuan? Because we did say that was.
I was just going to bring up DeJuan.
DeJuan Jones, Luke Whippler, Tanner McAllister, Ronnie Hickman. I'll get Bohm because you are certainly the very objective Buckeyes fan, Homer. What did you think of your boys? DeJuan Jones, Luke Whippler, Tanner McAllister, and Ronnie Hickman.
Now, granted, because I had to actually produce the broadcast, to see every detail, I'd have to go back and watch the tape. That being said,
gotta watch the tape.
No, I felt very encouraged by DeJuan Jones. Obviously, that's the guy who saw more snaps than anyone else on that field last night. And I thought for the most part he held his own. I'm curious to see how he might do against, some guys higher up on the depth chart. He also had at least a penalty. I remember
they had a lot of penalties, which you expect in the first preseason. There were a ton for both teams.
But watching him back, I think you see just how massive of a factor his size is. He stands a head above the rest, and he's able to close on these guys that look like smaller and faster than him. It seemed really well, so I'm encouraged by DeJuan, and then. Ronnie, after that one tackle, I thought I was going to see a little bit more out of him. But, what are you going to do? Ball didn't go his way. Tanner, you got to make that INT, baby. You got to make that INT. And then Whippler, I didn't get a close enough look at him. I know he had a penalty as well. But, he was out there on the field when DTR was running the offense. And DTR, obviously he did enough to – DTR made everyone look good last night.
Oh, he was exciting. Again, it's okay. It's backups. I feel like we got to put all these, qualifiers out there. But he was outstanding, and you could feel, and this says just as much about DTR, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, by the way. So he does have a full name, Dorian Thompson-Robinson. You could feel, and it's almost you could. Equally feel the other way about Kellen Mond. And I'm not trying to just crap on Kellen Mond today, but he's I can't imagine him being around. I mean, DTR is going to end up being the backup, I would think. He just, and it's not, again, you're facing backups, and he just looked like the offense just looked like they were in quicksand when he was in there. All of a sudden, and you could tell, like you said, the energy, but you could tell, like, he gets in there, DTR, and it was like, wow, completely different look, which, they bring different looks to the table and different skill sets to the table, but still. All right, I'll tell you what, we'll take a quick break. We've got Fair Foul coming your way. Nick Shook, our good buddy with NFL.com, what we learned from last night's game, and am I being too dramatic when it comes to Cade York? I don't think so, but, if I am, certainly Nick will tell me, and you can tell me as well. 216-626-7901. Also, you can find us on Twitter at Chico Show, CLE. More to come, the Chico Bormann Show. It's all right here on the Big Play Sports Network. All righty, welcome back. The Chico Bormann Show here on a beautiful Friday. Really is beautiful here on the lakefront as we broadcast live here, the Big Play Studios here at comfy, spacious Burke Lakefront Airport. 216-626-7901 is the number if you want to get involved. We're going to get to Fair Foul in just a moment because I want to get to this. We talked about this yesterday. Hey, maybe the preseason, maybe you were on the fence. You should have been on the fence with this. I really do like this bet from our boys at Tipico. I don't know if it's going to mean playoffs, but we talked about this yesterday. The Browns are at 9.5. as far as over/under win total, which I think is perfect. I think that's definitely the fair number. Currently, right now, this over/under 9.5 wins is being boosted by Tipico. So, Browns win 10-plus games, Boom. Being that it's boosted on the Tipico app, you win more money betting it on Tipico than any other app. That makes sense, right? That's not hard to figure out. So why not do it? Download Tipico with code Chico150. This made Bohm really crack up yesterday, but when Bohm's serious, he's thinking of fair or foul questions. It's so like any other time you're like laughing, you can't focus, but like you are so like laser focused right now on fair or foul. As we have Junior from Sopranos checking in. Doesn't he look like him? I just started watching Sopranos.
I can't see Chico. I saw the top of the head.
I don't think he can either, but that's all right. Anyway, download Tipico with code Chico150, CHICO150 to get $150 bets on us and a $30 dog pound future bet. Boost ends on Sunday. Time is of the essence, kids. You're not going to get this anywhere else but Tipico. Code word Chico150. Browns, 9.5 wins? Yeah, taking that over. All right, it's time before we get to Nick Shook from NFL.com at the top of the hour. Mr. Bombastic. The smoke was coming out of his ears earlier for fair or foul.
Chico, we got to get Vinyl Guy Mike in here, up in this bitch, because...
Okay, enough of that. Stop saying. Stop. You don't need to swear just for the sake of swearing. Go ahead.
You said bitch yesterday. I'm just saying.
I did not say.
You did.
In terms of bitching and complaining.
Yes.
That's different. That was warranted. Remember, it's my name on the show, which means if it's not warranted, I get fired and you're fine. Anyway, go ahead.
All right. Well, I want to lead off with...
No, Vinyl Guy. We can still talk about Vinyl Guy.
Fair or foul, Vinyl Guy Mike needs to be up in this house.
Fair or foul, Dave McAllister needs to make it happen.
Yeah.
Fair. All right, go ahead. Now we can do fair.
All right, so we kind of finished the last segment talking about Dorian Thompson-Robinson, and you mentioned you kind of compared him to Kellen Mond. Now, granted, Mond
I didn't compare him. I said the exact opposite.
He looked a lot better than Kellen Mond. There's no question. Now, before I get into my fair or foul topic, you expect Deshaun to play like a drive or two in week 2?
No.
No, not at all.
Nope. I don't think he's playing until. I think you'll. And this is an interesting question. I don't want to steal your fair or foul. It's an interesting. Go ahead.
No. I want to hear what you have to say about it.
I don't think until that last preseason game or the second to last preseason, whatever, one of those, he's going to play probably a half, like they normally do. But no, next preseason week number 2 or game number 2, no.
All right. So then, with that said, Chico, obviously as we just mentioned, DTR looked significantly better than Kellen Mond. Fair or foul? Dorian Thompson-Robinson needs to be starting week 2.
Fair. I mean, yeah, I would like to see him from the start of the game because, again, what are we talking about today about last night's game as far as DTR is concerned is that no disrespect to Kellen Mond, but it looked entirely different. Like you saw Dorian Thompson-Robinson get on the field and I mean, it was like the spark. And again, sometimes it's cliche and whatnot, but yeah, it's real. And what you saw with your eyeballs and felt as far as like a big difference in the offense had a lot to do with him, had everything to do with him, I think, in some respects. So yeah, I think you got to see more of him. They liked him coming out. I can't see Kellen Mond being on the roster. Like even last year, it was like, he's not very good. I'm not overreacting to one game either. He's just not very good. So yeah, we need to see more of Dorian Thompson-Robinson.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm with you there, Chico.
You concur?
I do indeed concur wholeheartedly.
Okay, thank you, Bo.
Okay. Well, speaking of overreaction, Peter King shout out to the OU Bobcats, OU alum.
I was just talking about Peter King with Josh and Maria outside.
Oh, you don't
Mentioned
say.
it. Yeah, you don't say. Small
How about
world.
that?
Yeah.
Well, he's been doing some traveling around the country, reporting on various training camps, and he said, quote, he called wide receiver Zay Flowers of the Baltimore Ravens, quote, the most impressive rookie I have seen in 6 training camps. So obviously, there are more rookies out there to be seen, but I think you and I both have high expectations for Zay Flowers, and he could very well end up being the number one guy, the go-to guy in the Ravens receiving room. So with that, I want to ask you, fair or foul, it's not a bad bet to place your money on Zay Flowers for Rookie of the Year.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that's a very good bet. Now, I think you look at some of the quarterbacks and, Anthony Richardson, if say Indiana, now that's a whole nother story because this Jonathan Taylor thing, which we'll get to with Nick. But yeah, I absolutely, Jackson Smith and Jigba, your boy, Zay Flowers. I will say this though, I'm always hesitant. Like, I have great respect for the Ravens. I mean, I don't like them, but you have to respect them. But that's one area where it's like, well, you thought Marquise Hollywood Brown was going to just ball out with Baltimore. Well, it didn't quite work. Now I know. Now they got Todd Monken. But it's almost like I need to see it to believe it. But I will say this, and I only saw one. It was basically a quarter or a half and 3 quarters of a football game of Boston College and Zay Flowers. Obviously, plenty of highlights. The dude can flat out play. So, yeah, I mean, all the praise. It's not just Peter King. All of those folks are talking about it. But, yeah, let's just say I think Zay Flowers is going to work out better than your boy, Anthony Schwartz.
Well, you mentioned Chico. Oh, yeah, boy, Anthony Schwartz.
See, look at you. You're so laser focused on the next. Yeah, your boy Schwartz. Wow, call him an Uber? They were chanting, call him an Uber.
Yeah, I feel bad for the guy. That
You
fumble
would.
was tough.
Aw. Anthony, you can call me. I'll write a song for you.
You mentioned the Colts, though, and I did want to bring up Jim Irsay because there was an interesting story off the field pertaining to Irsay.
No.
Yeah.
Irsay?
So
Wow.
obviously, the aforementioned conflict
Pretty-
with Jonathan Taylor.
Pretty mild-mannered and keeps to himself. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, it looks like they're going to be parting ways like the Red Sea. But interestingly enough, Irsay, it was reported, had decided to dedicate $20 million to the transportation of a whale back to its original habitat in the Pacific Ocean.
I saw this.
Yeah, no, look, I mean, I appreciate his appreciation for nature and all that stuff, but fair or foul,
Wildlife.
Chico, do you think that it's fair or foul for fans of the Colts to be outraged by the fact that he's dedicating money to whales and not Jonathan Taylor?
Okay, I'm going to say foul because, I mean, as far as the money situation, here, the best way, because I really want to focus on Jonathan Taylor with this, but I will say this. What jumped out to me, and I'm sure jumped out to everybody, this is when, and look, God bless Jim Irsay to some degree, and congratulations to him, but this is when we say, like, wow, some people just have a lot of money and they're not quite sure what to do with it. What's the matter, Bo?
Looking through my list of fair or foul topics, I stumbled upon a video that I really loved last night, and I've tried to think of how to work it into fair or foul.
Okay, well, that's good. Just first things first here. Jeez, oh
Yeah.
man. Why did Jim Irsay, getting back to Jonathan Taylor, I don't know what's going to happen. Like, you say, well, yeah, they're going to part. The guy's pretty damn good, and here's the thing. Like, Indianapolis, we don't really know what to expect from the Colts. We do know that Anthony Richardson's going to get the reins sooner rather than later, right? Well, if, like, what Jim Irsay said wasn't necessarily false, but if you're an owner, why would you even say that? Because all it does is make the matter worse. I mean, again, If you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. So if you're not part of the solution, shut your damn mouth. I don't care if you're the owner. I don't care if you have $40 million to send, orcas and Jaws and whoever across the country. It is laughable. Like, wow, some people really do have that much money that they can do that. But the Jonathan Taylor thing, I mean, he's not wrong. And, like, these guys, even though it sucks, like, nothing's going to happen really right now. You're only hurting yourselves type of thing. But if you're Irsay and you really stirred the pot there, I got news for you, Jim. You might not want to pay him. You might be right in what you're saying. But the guy, when healthy, is very good. And you're going to freaking need that guy with a rookie quarterback in Anthony Richardson. And if you don't, and they just had another injury. They're talking about maybe Zeke ending up with the Colts, Boom. You go out there, I could see you in a Zeke Colts jersey, waltzing down Cedar Road in Cleveland Heights.
I could certainly envision such possibilities.
Thank you, Bo.
Now, with that said, the question that I was not able to figure out how to work out into a fair or foul topic was a Savannah Bananas highlight, which they're all great.
I think I saw this one.
The one where the ump did like the somersault into the "you're out."
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, actually, I thought it was another one, but okay.
Just gold.
Fair or foul? Fair or foul? That's better than Leslie Nielsen in Naked Gun.
Oh gosh, Enrico Palazzo.
Yes.
I don't know, Chico.
Enrico Palazzo's pretty damn funny.
Hey, it's Enrico Palazzo.
The best is when at the very beginning when he's not sure, and then when he realizes, like he's like, strike. And he's like, strike. Hey, hey, hey. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, he's doing he does the moonwalk. He does the freaking moonwalk. It's not as good as that, but it was funny.
It's the real life Enrico Palazzo, and it was just like a great action sequence. Like
I love that movie. God, I love that movie.
That one and Naked Gun 33 in the third.
OJ's in that movie.
Yeah.
Like, doesn't that seem like so?
He takes a beating in that movie.
Feels like another life. Yes. Yes, he does, and we'll leave it at that. God almighty.
All right, well, can't really work in the Savannah Bananas tonight, but how about I want to talk to you about one of the newest Guardians, not Khalil Herbert, Khalil Watson.
Yes. He's playing for Chicago, I think, Khalil Herbert. Or is he still in Chicago? Yeah, he's still in Chicago. Go ahead.
Yeah, so
Khalil Watson.
Khalil Watson, he had a couple of hits last night in his captain's debut, including one massive dinger. I mean, he had an absolute bomb. With all that said, Chico, fair or foul, you feel like Watson will be up playing for the Guardians in the next 2 years?
That's a good question. I mean, he's a middle infielder. Like, where did he start last night? He was with.
I only saw what he did offense. Shortstop? Maybe was it shortstop?
I think so. Yeah. So I mean, it's in 2 years. You're hopefully. If we're still talking about them trying to figure out the middle infield in 2 years, then I was gonna say I'll lose my hair, but I don't have any more. I'll say foul, but I do think that he is. I think he's gonna the second chance he's gonna make good on it. This kid has a lot of talent. It's just you get a lot of guys that have had talent and then they have maybe some issues off the field or confidence struggles and stuff like that, and it's why it's so hard to make it. But I think sometimes that changes scenery, and like I said, first and foremost, he has the skills and the talent to get it done.
Yeah, Chico, I don't always get excited about minor league performances.
I was going to say, it's weird. Like, you have I don't know if it was because you thought it was Khalil Herbert, and maybe you had him in fantasy football last year, but
dual sport athlete Khalil Herbert.
You've been oddly enamored with Khalil Watson. I don't know why.
I think that this is a guy who was very highly touted when he was drafted out of high school. Former first-round pick, big-time hitter. He had some, and from what I've read, he does strike out a lot.
Everybody does nowadays.
Sure, yeah, I guess that's fair.
Back in my day, they did. Go ahead.
but there's a lot of reasons to feel like the Guardians were able to acquire some serious potential from a guy who maybe there was some leverage working against him because of some off-the-field concerns. And so,
well, I think what's important to note is some people were like, oh, Gene Segura is the... No. I mean, he was cut immediately. It wasn't about he's aging middle infielder that was in Philadelphia for a while. I mean, he wasn't a... I'm not going to say he was a horrible player, but he was just... And he's at the end of his career. They took a chance. It is a chance on Khalil Watson, but ultimately...
And I feel like the Guardians were doing them a favor by taking on Segura, and they may not have even gotten Watson if not for taking on that contract and dumping it.
Both ways, right? As far as the contract and, yeah, I mean, same thing with Josh Bell.
And that'll do it for this edition of Fair or Foul, Chico.
This will end Fair or Foul. Bo.
We are no longer commencing Fair or Foul for this week.
That sentence didn't make any sense.
It did.
You got too excited about commencing. You don't say... We are no longer beginning Fair or Foul. You just say we're no longer doing Fair or Foul. Commence means like let's
moving
begin.
forth.
Why do you love commence and forth? Why do you love those two words so much?
Because they
Why do
feel
you love
abstract.
Khalil Watson so much? Like, I like Khalil Watson, but you're like, you got a man crush on this dude. It is very scary.
I like when the shiny new toys start off hot.
I think we're going to see you in a Khalil Herbert Jr. or Khalil Herbert jersey, Bears jersey, walking down East Lake, hanging outside of Lake County Captain Stadium. And, like, you're just, like, kind of like, oh, is Khalil around?
Cross out the Herbert and write in Watson.
Hey, it's Bone.
I wonder how many people would get it.
Can Khalil come out to play? All right, we'll take a break. Nick Shook, NFL.com, proud Northeast Ohio guy, Kent Stater, Akron, St. Vincent, St. Mary, what we learned from last night's game. And I'm going to bring up with the whole Jonathan Taylor thing. I don't know if he's going to be there or not. It feels like he's not, but I don't know. We'll pose it to Nick when we come back. It is the Chico Bormann Show, Hour 2, on the way right here on the Big Play Sports Network. All righty, welcome back. It is a Friday edition of the Chico Bormann Show here on the Big Play Sports Network. Glad to have you along. Of course, streaming us live as you can do each and every day, Monday through Friday, 11 to 1. On Twitter at Chico Show CLE. Also on YouTube, the Chico Bormann Show. If you're not subscribing already, hit that button. Thank you. And you'll be all set to go. And if you subscribe and you're a regular viewer/listener, you know I love talking football with this guy. And you love hearing him. Also because he's a native Northeastern Ohioan. And he was up very late last night. Like, Bohm, you said you went to bed at what time? 2 a.m.?
Oh, no, I got home from work at 2 a.m.
Oh, yeah, that's right. You don't go to bed till, you're playing your guitar till, like, the sun comes up. Nick had to be a really long night because he was responsible. He was tasked with, I said how I love what we learned. Well, Nick Shook, he had what we learned for NFL.com. For last night's Hall of Fame game. He joins us right now, but look at him. Bright-eyed, bushy-tailed. Look at how
I'm pretending to not be sleepy and tired. I also didn't get home until about 2 a.m. last night. So
be honest.
We're great. We're great.
Be honest. If you weren't with me right now, would you be sleeping?
No, I've been on since 9 a.m. for the NFL news, baby. It does not slow down. So, quick little turnaround. Got stuck in some traffic on 77 due to an unfortunate incident right around Akron Canton Airport, and made it home. And we had a great football game. And look at you giving what we learned plugs already. It's August 4th, and you're already giving what we learned a plug. I mean, my God, we're gonna skyrocket in views this year. Next time we talk, I might not even know you anymore. I'm just kidding.
Boom. Do you? I hope you don't detect any sarcasm. I don't, because I think he's serious when he says like the views. I'm taking that. I'm taking him at his word for that. He really thinks views are going to skyrocket.
Skyrocket.
Yeah. Boom. You agree?
Of course.
Just say yeah. All right, good. Yeah, well, I will say this, and I have said this many times. I just said it to Bohm off the air, so I'll say it on the air. During the season, I want, like everybody else out there, if you're a consumer of sports media and where to go and how to get it, I want it simple, I want it fast, I want it concise, and I want it to be obviously very good. That what we learned, when you guys do that every week, like it's right up there for me with Peter King on Monday morning or Albert Breer. Like, I love the recaps of all the games because you can't see all the games. So, again, skyrocket. Tell Siciliano I said hello, and when he gets that next big contract, that this guy helped him out. But Nick,
a little bit off the top.
I love the thoughts from last night. I opened the show by saying, look, yeah, it's only one preseason game, but with all that happened last year, and I mean all that happened last year, I'm not going to say I can just flush it, but it was just good to see orange helmets out there. Yeah, it was just good to have football back, but I felt like, okay, now I can maybe spit out that sour taste and get on to 2023.
Yeah, I mean, I felt sitting back watching it, and as somebody who's prepared accordingly for every team in this league.
Of course you are.
Seeing the third stringers for the Browns, I was like Bubba Bolden made an interception last night, and I was like, oh, Bubba Bolden's on this team? Wow, didn't know that. Like, it's just, you go through those sorts of things because there's roster turnover and there's just guys at that lower tier that move around a lot. But it did feel like the start of something new, as every Hall of Fame game does, but it was different because the Browns were in it, obviously. The first time since 1999. It was strange for me to see that because typically I go to that game and anticipate uniforms I don't typically see all that often in person, and yet there's the orange and brown right there. So I think that the first half and then the second half, tale of two different halves, and also maybe a tale of Browns fans leaving last year and stepping into this year. And it really revolves around quarterback with DTR and the way that he brought some excitement to that game, because let's face it, there wasn't all that much to cheer for in the first half regarding the Browns. So it's good to get back to football. It's good to take that first step toward the regular season. And again, like you said, leave last year in the past and just, advance, see what happens. Optimism reigns supreme this time of year, as we know. And this is why it starts right now.
So I would be, as Bohm loves to say, I'd be remiss if I didn't. I'd be remiss if, obviously, this weekend is all about, well, the Hall of Fame, and we had Joe Thomas on the show yesterday, and we saw him, we heard the ovation, we saw him. I get the sense, Nick, and not that this will be a big surprise, but I get the sense that because he has said over and over again recently, and said yesterday, like, when it's all said and done, Browns fans, I want them to feel like they're on stage with me. Like and I know you can say, well, most guys will want to thank the fans, but this feels different, which makes it feel like, yeah, I mean, of course we're going to watch, but it's like must-see TV, because I think he's really going to make Browns fans feel great, which much needed.
Makes me realize I'm old, because there was a period there where the only Browns that even had a chance of getting the Hall of Fame were Browns from the earliest days who, were getting in as like the senior committee group, well, that was it basically. And now you get one of these guys who you watched, joined the team in 2007, had 11 great years, an incredible snap streak, all of that, and is still young and vibrant and everything else enough to, bring in the generation that I call the lost generation of Browns fans, which is the group that was people that are basically my age, which, the Browns come back in 99. First they might have had to pick a different team, and the Browns were gone for 3 years. And if they didn't, and they stuck with the Browns because their parents told them to or whatever, they come back in 99 and they're bad for so long that there's nothing to root for except Joe Thomas. So that group is probably going to feel recognized, feel seen for the first time in this era, really, that encompasses Joe's career and beyond. And I think he understands even in talking to him this week and working on an oral history on his career, talking to many of his teammates, former coaches, GMs, he understands the meaning that the Browns hold in Cleveland. He understands that. And more importantly, he understands that those people need to be recognized and appreciated because they were there for him just as much as he was there for them. It's going to be an interesting, I think, a unique speech for sure because of that, because he didn't win a lot of games. What's he going to do? Go up there and be like, I remember when we won the Super Bowl. I remember when we beat Pittsburgh in the playoffs. That's not going to happen. So he's got to have something else to do other than, just tell old stories.
He's going to say, I remember crying when we won our lone game in 2016.
Yeah, exactly. I remember when I was a rookie and we won 10 games and didn't make the playoffs.
Oh, man. Let me throw one more your way, because you mentioned it, and I'll go ahead and talk about it as well. You did a great piece on Joe and talking to his former teammates, and one of those teammates being Josh Cribbs. I'm biased. I think we're all biased as Browns fans. You might even be more so because you're also a Kent Stater. I'd love to see him get in the Hall of Fame. I honestly do believe he deserves it. But the game is it's just so different now, which is not his fault. I want to see him get in. What do you think the chances are that Josh Cribbs does get to Canton one day?
First off, is he there right now?
He was earlier. I was talking to him before the show.
No, that's a joke. I think that one of two things has to happen. Devin Hester's got to get in first and got to clear the runway for football fans and voters, more importantly, to acknowledge the greatness of returners. And the funny thing about this is I was just at that talent summit for our company about a week and a half ago. We had a pretty impassioned discussion about the future of the kickoff with some of the league officials that were in town. And there are a number of things that I think are on the table, generally speaking, but I feel like the kickoff is very close to being gone. And if the kickoff goes away in the way that we know it,
right?
Not necessarily gone, but maybe, transforms into like the XFL kickoff, which I think is actually a brilliant idea. The punt return and, the punt and punt return might follow. So, which is kind of different because you still have to punt the ball in terms of field position and everything else. But my point to say all of that is that guys like Josh and Devin Hester do not exist anymore. The closest you got in this last 10 years is Jakeem Grant, who has not returned kicks habitually for a few years now, I think. I'm trying to think about somebody else. Last year, I think Nyheim Hines took a couple back. But I mean, like, it's few and far between. Kenny Nwangwu had a couple in his rookie year with the Vikings. So those guys don't exist anymore. So over time, I think we'll appreciate them more, but it starts with Hester. I think Hester's got to get in first and kind of set that precedent, and then Josh will get in because like their numbers are not that far off, and they were both phenomenal at that time.
Yeah, this was exactly what I was talking to him about before the show, is that you're right. Like, I mean, you said that about, the guys that nobody knows who those guys are. And it's sad because, I mean, special teams, look, well, we'll be getting to special teams here in a moment, i.e. the kicking situation. But special teams, are very, very important. But Josh, I'll say this, like, was Devin more electric? And yeah, he was incredible. I mean, you know this as well as I do. Josh was the first guy down there on coverage, and he was, it wasn't just, wow, he was a great return guy. And now, again, I'm a little bit biased. I get that. But unfortunately, I'm shaking my head because I feel like the way the game is viewed, and specifically special teams, it's like he's on the outside looking in. That's just reality, and I just think it's wrong.
Well, yeah, and I think you raise a really good point in that he wasn't just a returner. And I totally agree with you, and I'm 100% on board with that. The reason I say that about Hester is that Hester is more known. He just is. I mean, he's the guy that, from a national perspective, when they think of return man,
and I totally agree with you.
Hester's first, Cribbs is probably second, and Dante Hall, the X-Man back in the day in Kansas City, is probably third for like the modern era, 2000 and beyond for returners. And so he has to clear that path. And then once he does that, you can make the case for Cribbs even easier because you can say, well, look, Hester's in. And Cribbs also did everything else. He ended up actually playing receiver pretty substantially. He played every unit on special teams. I mean, he played for a bad Browns team and consistently went to the Pro Bowl and was among the best. Single-handedly led them to multiple victories over the course of his career.
Let me reemphasize that. Single-handedly, because, I mean, think about it. I mean, I'm not exaggerating. I'm not being over-dramatic by saying this. This, every team, getting ready for their opponent. All right, who's the guy we got to stop? Who's the guy that we got? Josh Cribbs was circled every damn
16.
game.
Yep,
yeah.
16. So, yeah, I totally agree. I just think that it has to go in an order of operations that is going to take some patience.
Yep.
I think it's not going to be overnight. But I do think that, we have these discussions where it's like, are we lowering? Are too many Hall of Famers getting in? And it's like, come on, guys. Like, yes and no. It's not the Basketball Hall of Fame. It's not as stringent as baseball is, for better or for worse with baseball. I think the right amount of people get in right now, and I think Josh Cribbs will be in there eventually.
Well, and we've talked about it. Not to we'll get on to some other stuff here in a moment, but we've talked about like how the game has changed. Wide receiver stats. 1,000 yards used to mean something. 100 catches. I mean. Wow. Now it's just like, oh yeah. I mean, he had a good year. Yeah, great. It's like it's become ho hum, which is amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're talking to Nick Shook, NFL.com. Getting back to this game, we're going to stay on the theme of special teams. And look, we don't want to overreact because it is one preseason game. But I made the statement in the first hour that because of what happened last year and because Cade York struggled last year, I think it's fair to be extremely concerned even after one preseason game because he's different because it's that mental you know what I'm talking about. What's the concern level as far as Cade York even after just one preseason game?
Well, I think it's going to be high because he wasn't consistent last year. He did kind of figure it out down the stretch, but from what I've been told, he hasn't been very consistent in camp either. And you take that with a lack of demonstrable consistency as a rookie, and then you miss your first field goal in the Hall of Fame game. Granted, it was from 49. It's not like it was a chip shot, but
sure.
The pressure amplifies, it increases. And next thing you know, what you don't want to see is that you find yourself in an Austin Seibert situation where, he came in as a draft pick and just got in his own head and couldn't make kicks that he was making routinely in college. And it ultimately led to his departure. York, any kicker can encounter that because it is a pressure packed job from the jump. You don't get 50 plays a game. You get 3 or 4, maybe that count towards significant points for your team. And they're not, the kicks aren't the easiest kicks to convert, conditions, pressure, all of that stuff. That piles up if you continue to miss though. And the preseason it's the time to work the kinks out, but it's not the time to get yourself in a situation where suddenly I don't know if I can make these kicks anymore. We saw it happen to Brett Maher last year, late in the year. He just got the yips out of nowhere, out of absolutely nowhere.
Philly, yeah.
It happens. It happens. You want to avoid that. And, he made his extra points last night, which is fine. One of them was like, almost made it. Almost missed it, I mean. That missed field goal, though, just causes a little bit of concern. Luckily, he's going to get a few more preseason games to work it out. And I included it because it was like, it's the Hall of Fame game. There's not that much to write about to begin with. And secondly, this could become a problem in a couple of weeks for them because they have not had consistent play at the kicker position.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think it's fair also because, from a talent standpoint, and God knows we know here in Cleveland, that's not the end all be all. From a talent standpoint, they have the talent to be a playoff team. But one thing that we know for sure, unfortunately all too well, small things, little things become big things in a hurry. And that is I don't even want to say it's a little thing, but it's one of those that a lot of times you look past because, well, it's about Watson. It's about, Amari. Are they on the same page? And, hey, is that defense better? Well, guess what? I mean, you mentioned that kicking situation with Maher. How about, I said to Bohm, I think the kicker has to be maybe the most mentally tough guy on the field because think about Harrison Butker. Like last year, hey, no pressure, but our quarterback's on one leg, basically. He put his blood and guts out in the field to get us in this position. No pressure, but if you hit this, we win the Super Bowl. If not, I get your bags packed. You're probably going out of town.
And he had missed a kick in that game.
Yeah. Yep.
Like it's really hard to be perfect. But it's also even more difficult to make the kicks that you absolutely need to make. And I think you only do that when you get enough opportunities and prove to yourself enough times that I can do this. Like, I'm good at this. The NFL, the jump from college to the NFL is a big one. Suddenly you're among the big boys. Everybody's good. Everybody was that All-American. Everybody was close to that in the NFL. And you might start to question yourself, especially if you struggle to do the job that you've been known to do so well over the course of your collegiate career. And I think that, he had his ups and downs last year. And the pressure was probably a little bit too high entering this camp, but that's external pressure. That's everybody here being like, we need a kicker like Phil Dawson again, who is great. He's a great guy, but has been retired for a while now. And everybody needs to kind of move on and accept that kickers don't come by, he was one of one. Okay. He's not a super common guy.
And so he was undrafted. Think about that. Undrafted.
And initially released. So I don't know, give him some time, I think, but also if a team that wants to win now, like you said, the Butker thing, right? If a team believes it's going to win now, they can't, waste time screwing around with a kicker that can't consistently kick. That's it.
A few more minutes with Nick Shook, NFL.com, and obviously going over his thoughts. They call it What We Learned, which I like a lot on NFL.com, talking about last night's Hall of Fame game. All right, just in general, because I agree with you, there's not a whole lot to take away, but some of the young guys or maybe some guys that not even just rookies, but maybe struggling and on the fence possibly of making this roster, not making this roster, that either really helped themselves last night or maybe even hurt themselves last night. I put you on the spot.
Fence, guys.
Schwartz, maybe?
Well, I thought Schwartz hurt himself without a doubt.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Like either or. Helped or hurt?
I think that's inevitable that his time in Cleveland's going to be over soon. I thought that John Kelly reprised his role as preseason hero, especially in the first half. He had 14 touches in the first half, including the first touchdown of the game for the Browns, 3-yard reception. I liked a lot of the young guys, to be completely frank. DTR was awesome. I fully expect him to beat out Kellen Mond for that job as the QB number 3 on that depth chart. Cedric Tillman, he didn't play a ton, but didn't get to see a ton of targets, but I did like what I saw from him. Just kind of a prototypical guy, very not like polished in the professional sense, but fundamentally sound with the way that he ran his routes. I'm looking forward to seeing him develop, and it was kind of encouraging. I thought Nick Harris did a pretty good job at the time that he was in there. And, but I also have to go back and watch the tape closely on those guys, especially in the defensive interior, Luke Whippler being another one, on the offensive interior. Luke Whippler being another, the rookie center. I don't know. I enjoy watching interior linemen succeed, and for the most part, they did well. I want to say Whippler got it was Whippler or somebody else got flagged for holding at one point, but I defensively, I thought Cam Mitchell had a really nice close on a pass attempt on 4th down, turnover on downs. He nearly intercepted it. It was good, way to defend that. Otherwise, I don't know if I have a ton of standouts. It's a preseason game. It's an early preseason game. Oh, Siaki Ika, 3rd down stop. 3rd and 1, he plugs the gap. I was very impressed by that as well.
Could definitely get used to seeing that this year. That'd be great.
335 pounds, baby. That's what you put all those pounds on for, is plug those gaps.
That's what I tell people. Yep, that's exactly what I tell people. All right, Nick Shook, NFL.com. Last thing, buddy, I aside from this, one of the big storylines, there's plenty right now, but one of the big ones is Indianapolis, Jim Irsay versus Jonathan Taylor. And look, as far as Irsay's comments, is he right in what he's saying? Yeah, I mean, it's fair. Like, hey, you know what? This is just what but why in God's name? Like, if you're an owner or anybody really, like, hey, can I help the situation or can I hurt the situation? If I'm going to hurt the situation, then just shut my mouth. Now, again, I know it's Jim Irsay. So all he has to say is something. You're looking at the Colts right now. They could be starting Anthony Richardson. I don't know. I mean, you know about that more than I. But they're sooner rather than later, they're going to be leaning on him. Gee, it might be nice to have a veteran running back if he stays healthy and a very good one back there. But I don't know how this is going to shake out. But why the hell would Jim Irsay just throw more fuel on the fire? I don't get it.
Yeah, insert himself into a conversation that he didn't need to join, and then which led him to reveal that they hadn't been talking about extensions, and now we've gotten all the way to this point rather rapidly. It's not a surprise that an owner doesn't want to pay a running back. I can't blame them. It's bad business to pay running backs, but if the running back is the best player on your offense and he's young, and you need to rely on him as you bring a rookie quarterback into the fold, you pay him. You pay him the Nick Chubb contract, a 3-year extension. You don't give him the 5-year. You figure out a way to make that work instead of just saying, no, we don't pay you. I understand the injury concern. Taylor did have some issues last year. He still reportedly got issues. There's a bit of a disagreement whether he has back pain or not, which landed him on PUP. Actually, the ankle landed on PUP. So it's getting messy real quick.
Yep.
I think ultimately, if a guy is considered an elite running back, even if he's coming off a year in which he got hurt, struggled to stay on the field, you pay him. You pay him, or you at least avoid not having this happen. Like, avoid this. Maybe you didn't have to pay him right now, but you didn't have to go out and tell everybody that I'm not going to extend him, or we haven't engaged them in any discussions. It got messy when it didn't need to get messy, and they're going to have a tough time figuring it out. But at the same time, if they're going to stay firm in their stance of not trading him, eventually these two sides got to come to some sort of agreement if they want to actually get something out of this season. We'll see. It was unnecessary. The whole thing was unnecessary, and that's kind of how I feel about it.
So, of course, I have to put you on the spot to go. Crystal ball, is he with the Colts opening day or no?
I have a hard time. I would say no, but I have a hard time thinking that the Colts are going to find an adequate trade package of compensation in return for him. And that's going to be the biggest hurdle to him not being on the Colts.
I think your response is perfect. Like, there's so much to think about here, but I mean, it's normal to say, okay, well, this guy is upset, but eventually, okay, though. But Irsay's comments, like, he couldn't be more dug in, and I don't necessarily blame him for that. I agree with you with the whole running back situation, but if you're Jonathan Taylor, it's like, wow, now you really made it personal, and now, like you said, the ugly part of it, oh, well, yeah, that back pain, that's, you had an injury away from the facility. No, this one was, I mean, you could just make that up. Ross Tucker was talking about it. That's what happens when guys get really ticked off. That's what he may very well do.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's very possible that there's some fibbing going on one way or the other.
Go ahead.
You can kind of you can create a narrative in which you can stake yourself to one position to be able to make an argument against not being paid or not paying the guy one side or the other.
What's next on the podcast, by the way?
Oh, let's see. We just did episode 11, which is the AFC East breakdown with Greg Rosenthal, as everyone knows, of the Around the NFL podcast, NFL.com, NFL Network, NFL Plus. He's everywhere.
Dang.
And he gave us 40 minutes of his time to do that, which was much appreciated. I haven't booked a guest yet for next week, but we have 2 divisions left, AFC South and AFC West. So who does he pull out of his phone contacts? Let's find out. Or maybe we just don't go with a guest.
You know what I love? Nick paying it forward. Because, Greg Rosenthal, he said, gave us 40 minutes of his time. Nick, long night. I sent it out there, man. And Shook is like, I got to pay it forward. And he probably feels sorry for me, which, whatever works. I mean, hey, whatever it takes to get you here. I mean, if you feel sorry for me, that's fine too. But, buddy, I really do appreciate you taking the time.
We start with sarcasm and we end with sarcasm. It's just the sarcasm hour here.
The bald brotherhood continues.
With Chico and Shook, the 2 bald guys. I will say this. I never say no unless I absolutely can't do it, because I think that saying no limits your opportunities in life. And I will never say no to you because we go way back. And I'll even move things around for you because that's how important it is to me.
Bohm, you might need to take us out of this because I'm getting a little emotional. Shook, we appreciate the time, buddy. We'll do it again soon. Thank you.
All right, Chico.
All right, that is Nick Shook, NFL.com. We love him. He's fantastic. And, interesting stuff there. I mean, again, there's not a whole lot of takeaway, but I think it's okay. You shouldn't feel like, I'm overreacting. Yeah, Cade York is a big deal. He's a very big deal. Too many games are decided and play calling decided and end of half, it's huge. It's huge. We know the talent's there, but that's where I say, if it goes, and it's so mental and it's such a confidence thing, if it goes, it could be, see you later. It could be Chuck, new kids on Knobloch. Boom, you all right over there? You're probably tired. Yeah, probably.
Yeah, I'm hanging in.
Were you able to get the guitar in after the show?
I broke a string. I gotta get a new set of strings. Yeah.
Tease. We'll find out exactly why Bohm broke the string, because I don't think it's just as simple as, oops, the string broke.
It was my G string too, Chico. I broke my G string.
Can you make sure that we cut your own clip? So can you? Yeah, Bohm broke his G string.
That can't be used out of context at all.
Bohm breaking his G-string next on the Chico Bormann Show right here on the Big Play Sports Network. We are back as we wind things down on the Chico Bormann Show on this Friday. Good to have you along with you until 1 o'clock, 11 to 1, Monday through Friday. We do this right here at the palatial, exquisite. Now I'm going down the Bohm Road for like these great, exquisite. Go ahead, add a few.
How do I weirden my sentence further?
Studios here at Burke Lakefront Airport, where we are stationed here at Big Play Sports. Good to have you along. Follow us on Twitter at Chico Show CLE. Boom, real quick, just because I do have to get the G string. You broke your G string on your guitar.
Yes, that is correct.
Somebody just heard going to break. Bohm broke his G string, and they're like, "Wait, what the hell are they up to now?" But you broke your G string on your guitar last night.
I thought about in the past. I have very much pondered the thought of because when you buy new guitar strings, right, they're all like wound up.
Mm-hmm.
So I've thought about wearing a G string on my wrist as like a bracelet and saying I'm wearing a G string.
I don't know. By the way, I remember when you got that guitar. Is it the light blue one or whatever? Yeah, it's a real fancy guitar.
A Les Paul.
Bohm actually, back in the day, and a long time ago, Bohm actually played on my show at night, and you were obviously a real hit. But I remember when you got that guitar. Now, was it just normal wear and tear, as they like to say in the car industry or the NFL, or was it you got upset, you're in a bit of a mood, and you popped your G string?
Well, that guitar has had a freak injury before. But no, in this case, it was just a little bit of wear and tear in need of some string changing.
Okay. Well, good luck in changing your G string, and
thank you.
Hopefully
I appreciate that.
You can get back to what you do best with that G string. All right. 216-626-7901. 216-626-7901. One thing that I want to get to, and again, we talked about the Hall of Fame game. If you want to chime in, we just talked to Nick Shook, takeaways. A couple things I wanted to get to, though. Have you seen the quarterback series?
I have not.
Okay. I finished that. Peyton Manning is like the executive producer. It dropped on Netflix, so that means all of it came out. I think I want to say like 6 episodes. And it's basically Kirk Cousins, it's Patrick Mahomes, and it's Marcus Mariota. And I think next year there was some controversy brewing in Cincinnati. Like Burrow reportedly turned it down, but now they're saying Burrow is going to be a part of it. But anyway, I will say this. After watching it, and I'm curious, others that have watched it, if you feel the same way I do. I know that, Patrick Mahomes, he's so great. We're tired of hearing about him. But I will say, like, I kind of developed an even greater appreciation, not only for how great he is, but like he does seem like just a good. I mean, he works his ass off, but he's not. I don't know. Now again, you can be portrayed in a certain light, and I get all of that, but I came away having a greater respect and admiration for Patrick Mahomes, the player, and I think also Patrick Mahomes, the person. One moment after the Super Bowl I thought was great, and this is where these behind-the-scenes stuff and when the camera crews and HBO and Netflix and all these are going on, this is where it's so cool. So Pat Mahomes Sr., boom, who was a pitcher, not as famous as Khalil Watson, but Pat Mahomes Sr., who obviously was a Major League pitcher.
He's no Shohei Ohtani.
I don't know where that came from. Guy needs his G-string back, for God's sake.
Somebody get this guy a G-string.
So Pat Mahomes Sr., after the Super Bowl, hugs, Patrick, and he says to him, and they catch this on, on the mic or whatever, I have never seen anyone like you. You are just different. You're amazing. Congratulations. Like, I know that oh, yeah. Like, that's one thing for me to say it, but when your dad says it, and I thought in the moment, I'm like, wow, that is a really cool thing to say. Of all the things you could say, I love you, I'm proud of you, you're the best. But, like, you're just different. I've never seen anyone like you. And Mahomes then later commented, like, that in the moment with everything going on, that froze me. Like, it still gives me chills thinking about it. And I thought that was so cool. You know what I mean? I like these documentaries, and not all of them are great, but I liked this one. Marcus Mariota really, I mean, there really wasn't much to offer. I'm not saying he was bad, but there was nothing really. Kirk Cousins, I thought, was pretty good. But it was really more about Mahomes and their season and the injury and all that stuff. I will say this, though, and I'm not one of those who just piles on because everybody else says it. God, I understand the wife. Like, if you're the spouse, any spouse, husband, wife, but in this case, you're the wife of Patrick Mahomes. Yeah, you know what? If people find you a bit annoying because you are so over the top, excited and passionate and defensive about your husband, I've got no problem with that. Having said all of that, my God, is she like? They show her like in the press box or in the suite. It's not the press box, in the suite with like family, and just blood-curdling screams and yells, and it's just like, oh my God, stop.
Tell me you wouldn't want a girl screaming about you like that, Chico.
Well, who says they don't?
I think it could just be jealousy. No, look, I think that in some sense I see how she's annoying, but like I also empathize with the fact that she's just really passionate about her mans.
Like, I don't think she's I really don't think she's a bad person. She's in the spotlight. I mean, can she come across as arrogant or, aloof or, guess what? I mean, a lot of people do. I mean, it is cool. Like, I mean, hey, that's my man. I'm standing by him, and I don't care what the rest of you say. And Patrick obviously really appreciates it, and you got that out of it as well. Now, here's the flip side. We've talked about his brother on the show. I think he recently was in a fair or foul question. He had I think it's still going on. He had something happen at a bar. I don't know. His brother is basically, he kind of reminds me of like a Kato Kalin character, except it's his brother. But like he's just hanging out. Now Patrick, and that's another reason why I appreciate him is he doesn't let that like, oh, so you got a problem with my wife? I don't really care.
He's so nonchalant about it.
Yes, he really, and it's really cool because I'm sure there are times when, again, not a robot human being, he wants to say, like, you know what, can you guys just chill? Like, I don't need all of the, but, you know what, be yourselves. My wife, obviously, my brother, okay, so he's got some. But let me just say this. As annoying at times as his wife was, but I understand it. So go back to remember the playoff game against Jacksonville where he hurts the ankle and then it becomes like a focal point because, it was a bad high ankle sprain. That normally keeps you out maybe 4 to 6 weeks, maybe beyond that. So I mentioned that his wife, Brittany, is in the suite, and she's going crazy, as you can imagine. She's screaming and hollering, and that's, I understand that. There's a shot of his brother as the game is winding down, and he's trying to, he's, again, behind the scenes. He's yelling at people, get me out there, and, hey, no, Andy Reid, hey, we're not putting you out. F that, I'm coming on. Let's go. It's what I do. His brother is on his phone, and you can see, like, at first I thought, oh, he's looking at a replay of, he's not even paying attention to the game. And I know someone will say, well, you view him as Patrick Mahomes. He's just my brother, Pat. I get that, okay? I do, but you're still, this is a playoff game with your flesh and blood, and, I mean, just, I don't care if he likes football, hates football, loves sports, hates sports. It's not for me to judge. But, like, he's watching something or it was like he was watching, like, a TikTok video or something. It had nothing to do. Because, like I said, at first glance, I looked down, and I'm like, and I even paused it, which is not easy for me to navigate. You know how horrible I am on social media. So I pause it, and I'm, doing trying to enlarge it, and I'm looking at it, I'm like, he's not even watching the game. He's not even paying attention. And it's just like, wait a minute, dude. I could see if it's in the middle of the second quarter, week 3, you're hanging out with your sister-in-law, you're watching your brother, and you're texting your girlfriend, your boyfriend, or whatever, his significant other. I don't judge. And he's watching some videos, but in that moment, am I wrong, Boom? Like in that moment, your brother is in serious pain, trying to get back in the football game, a playoff game, everything hinging on him, and he's just kind of like, oh, that's a cool video on TikTok.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of people who are just out on their phones, like at concerts. And it's like, why'd you even pay for a ticket? Now, granted, Jackson didn't have to pay, and I'm sure that he's not even that big of a football fan.
It's not even that, though.
Right, this is your brother. Like, this is a big moment for not just your brother, but your family. This is, in a lot of ways, kind of your legacy.
Yeah. I don't know. You're right, Boom. I don't know what the relation. It sounds, I don't need to know. And that's another thing I took away with Mahomes is that he does all those guys. I can only imagine. You have to value your privacy. And so maybe but I don't know. Should I be surprised? Am I overreacting? Like I said, if it's week 3 and it's just, the Chiefs are up, 28-0. Oh, my brother just hit, Travis Kelce for another touchdown. Yawn. I'm going to go text or I'm going to go watch his. The season's on the line. Your brother can't put any weight on his right foot. And you're watching like TikTok videos or whatever the hell you're doing. I was stunned. I was absolutely stunned. But I did enjoy the series. I'm looking forward to next year with the series. I believe it's going to include Joe Burrow and others. I don't know the others yet. Also, I should mention, as we're talking about streaming and television, Bohm, you know this. I have never seen Sopranos, and I know many people are going, "Oh my God, not again with Chico!" Like not
grown.
Yeah, oh God, I had never seen Sopranos, and I'm not going to sit here and tell you like I never heard. Yeah, everybody talked about it. I'm late to a lot of the parties because back when that was going on, like I was in a different point in my life and my career and just kind of everything. So, like, I didn't really pay, oh, yeah, that's great, Sopranos. Now I'm watching it, and I am into season 2, a couple of episodes in. I think I'm not.
It's fair to spoil Sopranos at this point,
okay,
Chico.
Thank you. It is phenomenal. It took me a couple episodes, like it was kind of slow going, and then it was like, wow. I can't get enough of it. I mean, it is absolutely phenomenal.
I don't even think that it is merely my opinion when I say that show is considered the best show ever made.
Yeah. There are many people that as soon as I said that, they're like, well, duh, idiot.
Yeah, it's spectacular, and it gets better, and they continue to introduce new characters that are going to enrage you, enthrall you, and yeah, the plot just gets deeper and deeper, and there's more and more, like you can feel the pressure in a lot of ways, and I absolutely love that show.
And I mentioned Junior, his uncle, who's obviously plays a prominent role in the series. But there was a guy that walked by and peered in the windows, and that's why I said I can't make that comparison if I don't sit down and watch Sopranos. So I'm glad there was a guy that he was a dead ringer for Uncle Junior. Hopefully he doesn't have the same intentions as Uncle Junior did in the series. But yeah. Anyway. But did it strike you as odd what really ticked him off on the golf course with his nephew when
I'm trying to remember specifically because there's been numerous scenes of Junior on a golf course.
Sure, no, and I get it. Early, this is season 1, and he's making fun of him for liking.
Oh, yeah.
I was dying laughing. I'm thinking that would be something that, like, you joke around with, maybe with your buddies, and it's like Junior wanted to kill him. Well,
yeah.
Spoiler alert. But I mean, like, seriously, he was seething.
Yeah. I felt really bad for that woman afterwards for spreading that, that little tidbit.
You felt bad for the woman? Yeah, because she, at that point. But little bit of an overreaction?
Yeah.
I know they're a different. I realize the mafia and all that, but and I can't really. I don't want to say exactly what the topic was, but you can use your imagination. Many of you know because you've seen it, and you're not an idiot like me that hasn't. But I was stunned nonetheless. All right, one last thing. There is a documentary coming out. It might already be out on Johnny Manziel. Yay or nay? Does it interest you? Does it not interest you?
Now, I guess I'm wondering how much of a hand Johnny Manziel has in the production of this documentary.
Good question.
Because are we about to get some Manziel propaganda? Or is this going to be something that feels objective and tells both sides of the story and shows the ups and downs and doesn't make it like a Manziel redemption story?
Okay, but here's correct. I don't know. I don't know not only the answer to that, obviously, because I haven't seen it, but correct me if I'm wrong. Like, I haven't heard that he has. Now, we haven't heard as much. Part of that is he's no longer in the league, and I think he's opening a bar near Texas A&M's camp or on campus near the stadium, whatever.
What do you think he's going to call it? Billy's? Billy's Bar? The logo of like a big frizzy hair and the sunglasses and the mustache.
He's closed a lot of bars. He's open. He's only opening one. He's closed a lot of bars, certainly in right
Seen
here.
A lot of last calls in my day.
Right here in Northeast Ohio, Vegas, in disguise. But I guess what I'm getting at is, yeah, normally when you have a documentary like that, it's, okay, this is how it was, and here is to quote you, the redemption story. I think he's still, no, he's not. I don't think he's off the rails as much as he was, but I don't think like he's completely. So I'm definitely going to watch. I have no problem saying I'm definitely for a lot of different reasons, and not like I want to see the guy. I don't hate anybody to the point where I want to see them, as a human being just waste away and be miserable. But I will say this. Since Browns fans aren't already mad at me enough because I was yelling about a few things the last couple of days, but which I won't bring up again. But I still to this day don't understand. And again, diehard Browns fan, I don't need to explain it to anybody. I still do not understand why, there were grown men crying, including a sports radio personality who will go nameless. Maybe it was just because the camera was on. I don't know. But, like, crying because not because, like, wow, what a great story, and wow, that's so awesome but crying because, oh, my God, we got Johnny Manziel. What would bring you to the point of tears? Because you drafted Johnny and you know what it is? We're relevant. I don't know if it's good relevant or bad relevant, but we're relevant. We're a big story. We drafted Johnny Manziel. I just remember being embarrassed that night. Like I guess I was like excited to a point, like, oh, maybe he'll be the guy, but I was embarrassed. Like, why are people fawning all over the guy when he hasn't even taken a snap?
Yeah, I had my reservations with Johnny Football.
I did too. I didn't like the pick.
I was excited just in general because of all the buzz and like trying to be an optimist. And this is a guy who is talented and maybe he could put it all together. But that being said, I think that Browns fans are traumatized, Chico. We've suffered a lot of heartbreak and a lot of devastation. And so I think that has made us very sensitive as Browns fans. And so I think that when a moment like that happens, when you feel like the tide has finally turned and it all culminates in that one moment of like a shock and trading up for a draft pick like that, taking a guy that maybe could be your franchise quarterback, I could see how that feels tear-jerking. I do think it was a little bit of an overreact, but I think that Browns fans are more prone to overreact because of the past trauma.
I mean, you win a playoff game, I get it. I mean, I didn't cry. You win a Super Bowl, certainly. Because, I mean, that's where you're going to, like, memories, right? Like, oh, man, I wish my dad was here. I wish my uncle.
Nostalgia is real.
Right. They were such huge Browns fans, and I wish they could be here to experience this. But this is a draft pick. And I just and like you, I didn't like it. I had to accept it at the time. And my thought was, and I wasn't, not that I was Nostradamus, because I've been plenty wrong on draft. I love the Trent Richardson pick. Thought it was, what are they doing trading? Dead wrong. But you know me with kind of how I am with guys and how serious they are about. It was like in neon lights with Johnny Manziel. And I'm like, this is going to be an absolute freaking disaster. And the calls that I got, this was before you were with me. The calls that I got were like, Chico, just because, you're old and, you no longer go out and have a good time doesn't mean that, he's a young man. Let him have some fun. I'm like, hey, he can have all the fun he wants, right? But first, he's got to establish this isn't easy. The NFL ain't easy, and it sure as hell ain't easy being a quarterback and carrying all the weight and expectations. And I'm like, this isn't, no. And we knew. I felt like I knew a little bit more because I've been through some of those, the alcoholism and stuff like that. I've never hidden it. So I'm like, this isn't just a guy going out and having a good time. He's got issues. And, everybody I was getting killed. Oh, there you go. Chico's screaming at the clouds, the old man. I'm like, okay, well, I hope I'm wrong, but I wasn't. He was a train wreck from day one.
Chico, the irony of fans trying to give Johnny Football some leeway for partying, and then just a few years later bashing Deshaun Kaiser for being seen at a bar on a Friday night.
I don't even remember that.
Yeah,
Really?
there was a report that he was seen at a bar with a couple of teammates, and I remember just outraged over what are you doing going out on a game weekend? It's just funny how the tides have turned.
And it's the narrative. Well, Johnny's cool. He's doing that. No. And that's what was driving me nuts. That's why people, I'm convinced to this day, and we're out of time, so we'll have to pick this up again, and I definitely will watch the documentary.
When does it drop?
I think it already has, on Netflix. It's Manziel. That's just the name of it, Manziel. But I really am convinced that the real reason that people were so emotional and crying, which, again, I'm sorry, was ridiculous and still is that it really felt like, oh, my God, we're relevant. You didn't know if it was going to be good or bad, but, oh, my God, look, people are going to be talking about us the next day on ESPN, on SportsCenter. And we've seen that evolve over the years. Before 2019, yeah, we're relevant again. We're going to be we're not. So I get it because the fans don't deserve this. They don't deserve what they've been through. I want to be clear about that. But at the same time, I just remember being embarrassed. I remember talking to a guest. I'll tell you who it was. It was Eric Casillas off the air. And I said, grown men are crying in Cleveland. For what? Why? What's going on? Over Manziel? I'm like, yeah, they're crying. Why? I don't know. It was sad. Why am I crying? Why is Bohm's crying? Because he ripped his G-string. That's reason to cry.
I have very legitimate reason to cry, Chico.
How much is it to get a new G-string, Bohm?
You got to buy a whole set, and if you want to get a nicer one, it's going to cost you about $12 to $16.
You get those at Victoria's Secrets, or where do you?
Guitar Center.
Oh, okay. All right. Oh, that guitar. Geez, I got you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That G-string.
Really, Chico? All right. Out of time. Thanks to Nick Shook, NFL.com. Always love talking to him. Football season has begun. Guardians are back in action tonight. That's why everybody's happy with me, because I didn't mention them. Oh, good. You didn't talk any. Guardians are back in action tonight. They take on the White Sox at home. Old pal Mike Clevenger.
Sunshine.
Yeah, old pal Mike Clevenger, speaking of having a good time. He will be on the mound for the White Sox, and we'll be talking all about the Guards on Monday, the Browns continuing training camp, all that good stuff coming up Monday beginning at 11. Again, for all of us here at Big Play, including Mr. Bombastic Michael Bohm, I'm Chico Bormann. Make it a great weekend, everybody. See you.